All right, hello everyone. Here I am, Drew Carter for Adelaide Eternal, here with Daniel Abraham. How are you?
Yeah, good, thanks. How are you?
So Dan's still on a high after his good performance last night in the first Toowoomba-based online tournament. We got 27 players, and Dan did really well. Tell us how you went.
Yeah, so I came in sixth. I only had a loss to Saab, who eventually went on to win the tournament with his four-colour control list. So I was very pleased with how my deck performed and with how the whole event ran, actually.
Yeah, it was awesome. I'm really looking forward to more of them. Let's pull up your list and have a chat about that, because that's what the purpose of this discussion is today. What's the name of your deck and what archetype is it?
Yeah, so the deck's called Lutri Beserker, which is what I called it. Once I realised that I could copy Berserk with Lutri and attack for sometimes 20 damage for a win out of nowhere. So it really looks to abuse that card, and I think it may be the last time I get to play it in this current form in a tournament. I think that card will be pointed very shortly.
Yeah, so they're currently playing at 0 points, just with proxies and spoilers and so on. So let's just walk us through. We'll just walk through the audience through a little bit, like that. What you mean by that Berserk win? So just tell us like a typical scenario with the Lutri and the Berserk.
Yeah, so typical scenario might be so my deck's a rug hybrid control list. So anyone who's interested in the archetype, it's sometimes called Aggro-Control, which is a different archetype to what people call a tempo list. It's kind of like the opposite of that, where you kind of win very fast after like seemingly having a controlling stage with like a blistering attack. So a typical win might be, we kind of, an opponent and I would sort of parry for position. I'll do a little bit of damage, maybe with a Hexdrinker, something like that. I'll have a Tarmogoyf in play or a Hooting Mandrills. And then, or maybe I flash in a Vendilion Clique on end step, and then attack Berserk the Vendilion Clique, and then copy it with Lutri to do 12 damage to do the win in the end.
Yeah, so effectively, yeah, you're getting 4 times the normal power because you're getting 2 copies of Berserk thanks to Lutri.
That's right, and it's more viable than say sort of using Snapcaster Mage or even JVP to do it, because it kind of comes out of nowhere, and you've got sort of half the combo just in your hand from the start. So you only really have to find one card. You just have to find the Berserk.
Yeah.
You've usually I've got enough creatures there that can do enough damage to take games away.
Yeah, I know people were talking about that idea of just you only need one card to combo out. People were talking about that in terms of like having Tainted Pact with like a Thassa's Oracle deck as well, because Lutri can copy that, but that takes a lot of mana and time, and yours is just dedicated to damage. So there's a lot of interesting features about this deck that I want to touch on, but you've already mentioned 2 interesting concepts, like you said, hybrid control and aggro control, and you've contrasted them with tempo. Yep. So there's a lot in that, and I'm going to ask about that because I would appreciate your illumination. So Patrick Chapin talks about aggro control. Tell us what you understand aggro control is and how it's not the same as tempo.
Well, so sort of a tempo deck like Stars Rug Life will look to put down a threat early and then protect the queen. So it's a sort of usually a 1-out strategy with a lot of counter magic in it, and then burn spells to finish it off. And so it looks to establish dominance early, and it always wants to be aggressive. It plays its counter spells always, I think, to protect its threats, almost like it doesn't really want to be defending, I guess is what I would say. Whereas an aggro control list or a hybrid control list is more fundamentally a control deck, which looks to turn on a dime, like in the later game. And so unlike a traditional control deck, it doesn't look to only win the game through an attrition battle or through completely out-resourcing its opponents, but rather it looks to turn into like a vicious kind of an aggro deck in the late game. So it's sort of sits somewhere between aggro and control. I guess that's why they call it that.
And is it also so that combo control can kind of play a controlling game and then win very quickly at the end as well, like through Entreat the Angels or some kind of insta win like Thassa's Oracle or something. And you're doing that as well, but with creatures or burn.
Yeah, with attacks. Yeah, and unlike say like a traditional combo deck, like a Time Vault deck or whatever, it's not, the deck isn't fundamentally about just bringing together 2 cards that instantly win the game. Like I've got Price of Progress in there, and I can, just win the game with Klothys or something like that just by doing enough damage. I've got Chandra, Torture, Defiance. So I'm looking to win through creature-based damage, but I can also, usually in a flurry at the end, I think is the difference. Yeah, it's kind of like the coin to Rug Lifestyle Protect the Queen strategies, I think.
Okay. Can it also play, because you got Tarmogoyf in there, can it also play like an aggro style or a tempo style? Is that a feature?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, people sometimes sort of list sort of fairies in the type of decks, like traditional fairies, as the kind of deck that works like this, and that could lay down a bit of Blossom and an attack for the win. So last night I had a quick win where I just sort of laid down a Hexdrinker, leveled it up. I had a Noble Hierarch in play, so I was doing 5 a turn. I played Chandra, Torture, Defiance, and then just did final damage quickly. So yeah, it can play tempo, but I find that in the vast majority of games, what I tend to be doing is sort of defending earlier, establishing position, and then winning in the end.
Yeah.
So Price of Progress for me can be quite a good late game card, right? So it just allow the opponent to play out a lot of lands and then do 12 damage like that, and then finish with a single attack. So it does tend to just win fast in the late game, I guess, by comparison to a more pure aggro deck.
Yeah. So we'll touch on the Price of Progress as well. That's really interesting. So as I understand it, so Aggro-Control, you've said, is it typically takes a defensive posture in the early game.
Yeah.
But rather than winning through incidental chip damage like Snapcaster Mage or Balfour Strix or things like that, it doesn't win like that, and it doesn't win by assembling typically a combo but it does win very quickly in the late game, and it also has the capacity sometimes to play a more tempo or aggro strategy.
So I think Okoth, Thief of Crowns is actually a really great example of an aggro control card, because it doesn't kill your opponent really fast. It can gain you life. It can just gum up the board. It can sort of undo your opponent's best artifacts and creatures. But then suddenly you'll find yourself with 3/3 elks on the board, and you just swing.
Okay.
So it's for me, Oko fits the archetype quite well.
Yeah, I mean, and I think Kess actually is. You could describe some builds of Kess pile as aggro control, in that sometimes they can just win out of nowhere with double fiery confluence, for 12 and things like that. So that's an interesting way to conceptualize Kess pile as well.
I think that there are definitely versions of Kess pile that play more red that fit into that archetype.
All right, so you mentioned Adrian Sullivan, his article about hybrid control. By hybrid control, do you mean aggro control? Is that what you mean?
Yeah. So there's some confusion around the terminology. So sometimes people refer to tempo decks as aggro control lists. So Delver decks or Rug Life, whereas I think he has in mind various type decks as being. He just uses hybrid control as an alternative word to aggro control. In Patrick Chapin's book on deck building, hybrid control would be synonymous with aggro control.
Yeah, okay. And another way that Chapin describes aggro control and contrasting it from tempo is you play your time walks and then you win condition, whereas in Fish you play your win condition and then your time walks and beat down. With that, you're cutting out a little bit. Just might pause the recording.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you're back. All right. Good. All right, well, let's look really closely at a list. So it's 3 colours, rug.
Yeah.
All right, so yeah, you got. I find this is a really fascinating feature of your deck as well. It's 3 colours, but it's playing Maindeck Blood Moon, and it's also playing Price of Progress. I've never seen another deck do that. So talk me about how and why you're doing that.
Look, I'm playing Maindeck Blood Moon because I've been killed by Blood Moon so many times. I just realised how powerful it is. And I think Blood Moon is by far superior to Magus of the Moon. I don't think Magus of the Moon is particularly good with Bonecrusher Giant. So prevalent in the format at the moment. So as a red enchantment, it's very resilient. And in addition, when I learned that Blood Moon didn't change the super type of cards, and I could lock my opponent out and then just wait to draw Price of Progress and kill them on the spot. It seemed like a really good thing to do. And again, consistent with the idea of winning fast in the late game. So I think Price of Progress is incredibly powerful and a great card for the deck.
Do you sometimes wish Price of Progress, like, is it a liability if you face an aggressive deck?
Look, I find that if you look at the deck closely, I'm reasonably good. I've got some good mid-range threats. So although Tarmogoyf is generally regarded as a beater, like a really heavy hitter, but I did in Hooting Mandrills because I've got 4 toughness of brilliant blockers. In addition, I've got sort of Klothys in there. I've got Deathrite Shaman. I can bring Scavenging Ooze and Force of the Negation out of the board. So there's a lot of actually incidental life gain in the deck. So I can hold up the board, gain life, and then Price of Progress. But yeah, if I'm playing against an aggro deck, I'll just cut the Price of Progress.
Yeah. No, I think you touched on a key point there. Like, because most of the time Price of Progress is enabled by like a mana base full of basics or an extremely aggressive strategy where you're on more life. But you've enabled it in a different way through life gain and through Gush, I suppose, as well.
Yeah, through Gush and Daze. Look, I do play 5 basics in the list, so 3 basic, 3 snow-covered islands, basic mountain and a basic forest. Mm-hmm. So, I do aggressively fetch my basics. I think I've been quite careful with being able to do that. So I don't play any double green cards. I play mainly double red and double blue spells, which which mean I can, and particularly I want islands in the early game, so island and a forest. So yeah, I can function on my basic lands reasonably well. And then Blood Moon can like enable my late game red spells as well.
Yeah, and none other than Niv-Mizzet as well. So talk us through Niv-Mizzet.
Yeah, so I think that's the greediest card in the list. Far and away. 3 colours of Niv-Mizzet's a bit much, but I've got Blood Moon there, and I can. So there's a few ways in which I subtly can make sure I can cast that card because it's there to break the control mirror, because it turns all the draw spells into damage and it's uncounterable. So I can sort of subtly ramp into it with like Klothys. I'm playing a Maindeck Lotus Cobra, which turns my 10 fetches into like Black Lotuses to get the 3 blue or 3 red. Chandra's Torture to Defiance can ramp into Niv-Mizzet as well. And help me continue to hit my land. So it can be challenging to cast Niv-Mizzet with the basic island, but I've also got Astrolabe to fix my mana if I need to get that basic forest into play, so I can cast Niv-Mizzet. So it doesn't come out that regularly, but if I'm in a game where it has to go to the late game, then it's usually a match breaker.
Oh, for sure, yeah. Because you've only got 22 lands, but you've got all this ramp. Like I'm looking at Deathrite, Birds, Noble Hierarch, Ren 6 to fix colours and develop your land base, Lotus Cobra, ramp, Klothys can ramp, Chandra can ramp. So you've got a lot of incidental ramp as well.
Yeah, I got that, the Chandra was something I heard sort of Kevin Crone talking about on the So Many and Same Plays podcast. He was playing Niv-Mizzet in Vintage with Chandra, and that double red +1 ability is critical in the card.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just mucking with the view here. I think my video is interfering. You still there?
Yep.
Yeah. Cool.
I haven't got your video then.
No, I stopped it. That's okay. All right. So tell me about this this pile of cards down here. These are your points, I suppose. This is your A-Call, Force, Oko, Snap. That's 7. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think Ancestral Recall and Gush with the printing of Mystic Sanctuary, they're the optimal kind of draw engine at the moment, really, for control decks. And I know a lot of people are playing them. So I've got Snapcaster to recur, Ancestral Recall, and to I can recall I have Daze to return Mystic Sanctuary, so I can play A-Call over and over again. Oko, like I said before, is a really great sort of life gain card. It's also interesting, I think Oko turns the game into a game about Oko, which allows time to find the Berserk sort of combo finish, or that finish, price of progress. So it's almost like a great diversionary tactic for the deck. And also play Force of Will. I mean, I'm from Canberra, so I don't really like rocking into tournaments without Force of Will because there's so much combo runs around. But it's also, I think, critical to the deck's ability to resolve the Lutri and copy the finishing spell.
Yeah, I would say as well, like the Lutri, this was just a recent bonus. Like the deck was super strong even before the Lutri, so it's not all about the Lutri.
No, I mean the Lutri plus Berserk knocked it over the edge, but until then, I didn't have Berserk or Lutri in the deck, and it was still good. So I just put I had Scavenging Ooze in the main deck, so I cut that for Berserk and put it in the sideboard.
So this pile here, Blood Moon, Berserk, Price, Niv, are they like finishes, as it were?
Yeah, that's what I would say, like the things that break the game. Yeah, so Lutri's probably in that pile as well, but they're the big kind of finishing cards that I tend to win with. They're the ones I tended to win with last night. So if my games reach parity, then I'd cast one of those cards and that would usually win me the game. Yeah,
so here's just like, some cantrips, filter, and then like interaction on the stack and some bolts, and then you got creatures.
Yeah, so they're my damage. So yeah, Bonecrusher Giant plus Berserk with Lutri is also pretty good. That'll do 16. So I think it's a real card. And Hooting Mandrills was good as well. Yeah,
the trample. Well, Berserk gives it trample anyway, doesn't it? But trample's handy.
I think the only awkward one is actually Hexdrinker, because it has protection from instants. So
you can't Berserk it.
Can't Berserk that one, but it's good enough. Like it just gets there, and it comes down so early. It's a really premium threat.
Oh, it's just like a true name on its own. It's really good. So Grim Lavamancer, that's an interesting one. Why is that?
I found in testing that I'd lose to mid-range kind of decks, and it can allow me just to take out Bloodbraid Elves and opposing Deathrite Shaman and lots of aggro kind of threats. So I don't really use my graveyard that much, so I can afford to have Grim Lavamancer in there. Also, like I found I think I played against you and you had Ensnaring Bridge, and I need ways to do the final damage without having to attack sometimes. And Grim Lavamancer is good. It's also good for taking out Planeswalkers, I think. Things like, if Renin 6 wants to kill something, Grim Lavamancer can respond to that and do 2 damage. So I like it.
It's probably only going to get better too with more of these little companions that people are going to play, like Lutri and stuff.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that, but you probably...
So just looking at your 22 lands, and then tell us about your sideboard. What have you got in here?
Okay, so we'll go from maybe bottom up. So I've got a Stifle in there. Look, I'm not sure about Stifle, but with lots of Oracle in the game, I thought it mightn't hurt to have a Stifle in the board. I like it against Storm as well as something. And I think it might be good given all the companions. So if everyone's playing Lutri, it might be good to Stifle the trigger at the end of the battlefield trigger on that card as well. So I put that in at the last minute last night.
It also fits your mana denial plan in terms of Blood Moon stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I had a very tight match against Saar where he, I cast Blood Moon and he fetched, found Basic Island, Hydroblasted my Blood Moon, and I wouldn't have, and I had, didn't have the counter magic in my hand, but a Stifle on the fetch land would have been good there, I think. So that's a bit of a flex slot. I'm still thinking about that one. I've got Scavenging Ooze, so like I mentioned before, I did have that in the main deck because I think it's a really great card against combo decks and good for life gain as well. So it may find its way back into the main, but I just relegated it to the board in favour of Berserk last night. Ashiok Dream Murder get for graveyard strategies and anything that's looking to search the library, like the Thassa's Oracle deck, things that use Spellseeker. I've got that in there for those. Course of the Crew Fix is an anti-aggro option. It also sort of generates value in the mid-range mirrors, and again gains life. So I had felt a lot of the time when sideboarding against aggro decks, I think there's a great inclination to mainly bring in like cheap interaction, but a lot of the time the aggro decks will just like overwhelm that. You're turning yourself into a control deck by only interacting. And I found over time that playing against you on Fringy Bros that having good sort of mid-range blockers like Tarmogoyfs and Courses and Tassigers and things are the best way to buy time to win. So I wanted to try Force of the Crucifix in my anti-aggro slot. I've got Carpet of Flowers, which is a no-brainer against blue decks. So basically beat me last night because he resolved Carpet of Flowers twice against me. Again, like silver for the control matches and the mid-range ones, which are more about cards than they are life. So yeah, the cards, established bomb against control there.
That's Silver Library, yeah.
I've got Plus the Storm for the combo decks, and I've got Plus the Storm for combo decks and for control mirrors. We're looking to fight on the stack. I've got Submerge for my green matchup. Submerge won me a game last night against lands, where I had a bunch of elks with Oko, and my opponent had a bunch of 2/4 creatures and a tireless tracker, and it was 4 creatures against 4 creatures, and I just bounced the tireless tracker and attacked, did the final 2 damage.
Nice.
So Submerge is good. I've got the 2 red blasts for the blue matches. Magus of the Moon for greedy 4 colour decks. I think the moons are critical for winning matches against decks like Yidris, which with the extra colour have naturally more power but more vulnerability. I think the thing that Sav did well last night was build his 4 colour deck quite conservatively and was able to play a lot of basic lands in his list, and I think that got him through. It was a very good design by him. I've got Cindervines to kill chokes and to take out sort of artifacts and enchantments. I think it's a strong card. And then I've got my 2 Null Rods. So I've got Collector Ufi and Null Rod. Collector Ufi was brilliant last night. Single-handedly won me, I think, my final round against one of the combo shops decks with the new Elemental Fox. I can't remember his name. But that deck's just full of activated abilities on artifacts, and I just played Collector Ufi on turn 2, and it was pretty much game over as long as I could defend him.
Oh, I think that companion, all your permanents have to have activated abilities or something like that.
Yeah, that's right. I think the thing is, what I like about the rug configuration is you're able to play moons and null rods in the sideboard, and I think those are really strong strategies at the moment.
Yeah, nice. So just wrapping up quickly, what do you think? Do you have any strong or weak matchups? What are your thoughts on that?
I think slightly weak to sort of reanimator strategies, anything that can be faster than me. And so, yeah, some of the combo decks I don't love, but I'm packing some stuff for post board, and sort of four color mid range lists, which can outvalue me, because I can go down on cards for things like Force of Negation and Force of Will. They can be tough, but again, I've tried to sort of remedy that in the sideboard with and in the main board with the likes of Price of Progress and Blood Moon to try and shut the game out of nowhere if I get behind on board.
And what are you particularly strong against, do you think?
Anyone who has got counter spells. Pretty much. Yeah, I feel pretty good if I'm up against sort of a lands list or a shops list or what else?
What about jump or something like that?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, I feel quite good then because I've got my ancestral and I can interact with them in a way that they can't interact with me. Also love my main deck Veil of Summer. Counterspelling Thought Seizers with Veil of Summer is amongst my favourite thing to do.
Yeah.
So,
and what about Rug Life? How would you approach that matchup?
I think I just bring in my blasts and my Carpet Flowers, try and take out anything that I thought was going to, and I'd bring in some life gain. Yeah, anything that's going to damage me would come out, but I've tried to build this in a way that it doesn't do that. So I cut probably the dirtily cards, anything that's mana inefficient, probably like cut Chandra, cut Duck Fade and things like that, things that don't impact the board immediately, and bring in cheap interaction and life gain.
And so do you think you're favoured there, because you're just slightly bigger, or what role are you taking?
I'm not the beat down in that matchup, so I've got to play the control role. I think it's tough. I think Rug Life is a really brilliantly built deck, and it's actually got sort of more hard counter magic than I do. It plays you know, like mana leak and evasive action and things like that. So I can get beaten by those, particularly if it gets ahead early. But I think with the pointing of Time Walk at 4, yeah, I think it's a reasonably even proposition.
Yeah, nice.
I haven't played a lot of decks against it, so yet to be seen.
Nice. All right. Well, thanks so much for today. Well done on your performance again, and on making a sweet deck. And look forward to seeing more top finishes with it.
Cool. Thanks.
All right. See you, man.